As you scroll through the news, national job numbers might look steady, but something feels off, and that instinct is correct. In overlooked corners of the US, entire industries are quietly collapsing. Large-scale layoffs are becoming routine, sending a shockwave toward the most valuable asset most people own, their homes. For years, experts said real estate always goes up, advising to buy the dip. But they ignored the backbone of housing value, stable, high-paying jobs. When those disappear, so does the ability to cover hefty mortgages. Missed payments rise, foreclosures spike, inventory floods the market, and the housing bubble bursts. Today, we're taking a trip to the 10 cities where this unraveling is already happening. Some will surprise you, including a city once hailed as the next Silicon Valley, built on an industry now leading layoffs in automation. If you want to understand what's really happening and protect your finances, pay attention. Hit like, subscribe for more economic insights, and comment which city worries you most. Let's get on the road. Number 10. Phoenix, Arizona. As you roll into the Valley of the Sun, the first impression might make it seem like everything is booming. Tower cranes fill the skyline, brand new housing developments stretch endlessly across the desert, and massive semiconductor facilities gleam under construction. At first glance, Phoenix appears to be thriving, but that apparent prosperity hides a serious problem. During the pandemic years, Phoenix became one of the biggest success stories of the national growth surge. The city rode a wave of expansion, but in doing so, its economy grew heavily dependent on constant growth. Now, the very industries that fueled that rise are starting to weaken. The first major crack appeared in construction and real estate. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the Phoenix-Mesa-Scottsdale metropolitan area has lost a shocking number of construction jobs over the past year, with thousands of well-paid positions disappearing. These aren't just temporary labor jobs either. We're talking about experienced project managers, licensed contractors, and highly skilled tradespeople, the professionals who actually build and manage major developments. At the same time, another trend that once fueled Phoenix's growth is starting to reverse. The remote work boom allowed thousands of professionals to relocate there during the pandemic. Now that trend is shifting. Large employers across industries, from banking to technology, are pushing hard for employees to return to physical offices. Workers who refuse those policies are often the first ones facing layoffs. That shift has taken a serious toll on the city's white-collar job market. The Phoenix Business Journal reports that office vacancy rates in the downtown area have surged past 28%, putting them near historic highs. Empty office towers are becoming an increasingly common sight. So, what does all of this mean for the housing market? The impact is severe. Data from Redfin reveals that the number of homes currently listed for sale in Phoenix has exploded, jumping more than 40% compared with the same time last year. In other words, the market is suddenly flooded with inventory. Even more concerning, Zillow estimates that nearly 1 out of every 5 homes currently listed in Phoenix has already undergone a price reduction. That's a clear sign many sellers are getting nervous. However, the most alarming figure comes from Adam Data Solutions. While foreclosure levels across much of the country have remained relatively steady, foreclosure starts in Maricopa County have surged by more than 22%. Put simply, the high-paying jobs that supported many homeowners are disappearing, and financial stress is starting to show. If Phoenix once seems like a guaranteed winner in the housing market, that assumption may need a second look. Number 9. Nashville, Tennessee. Our next destination is the city famously known as Music City. When you arrive on Broadway, the atmosphere feels electric. Party buses crawl through the streets, neon signs glow from every bar, and crowds in cowboy boots fill the sidewalks. For years, Nashville carefully built a reputation as the ultimate destination for bachelorette parties and weekend getaways. Tourism and entertainment became the driving forces behind the local economy. But an economy that leans so heavily on tourism can be fragile, almost like a carefully stacked house of cards. And right now, the winds are starting to blow. The issue really comes down to two major pressures. The cost of living has surged dramatically, while the jobs that dominate the city simply aren't keeping up. Let's start with the employment side of the equation. The leisure and hospitality sector, which serves as Nashville's economic backbone, is now facing a problem economists refer to as wage stagnation. Jobs still exist, but the wage attached to those roles isn't rising fast enough. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average hourly wage in this industry has failed to keep up with the city's steep rise in prices. That imbalance is putting enormous strain on the housing market. Figures from the Council for Community and Economic Research indicate that Nashville's overall cost of living now sits well above the national average, and housing costs are the primary reason for that jump. The result is a growing affordability crisis. Reports highlighted by the Nashville Business Journal show that someone earning the city's median income no longer can afford to purchase the median-priced home. In simple terms, the numbers no longer add up, and that imbalance is starting to ripple through another major piece of Nashville's economy: short-term rentals. The very market that powered the tourism boom is beginning to unravel. Industry analytics from AirDNA reveal that vacancy rates for short-term rentals across Nashville have climbed sharply, while the average nightly price those properties can charge has dropped significantly. The only popular idea of getting rich by buying a property and listing it on Airbnb is quickly losing its shine. As a result, many investors who jumped into the short-term rental craze are now trying to unload their properties. Redfin's housing data backs this up, showing a dramatic surge of available homes for sale, especially condos and townhouses. This wave of listings is one reason nearly 30% of homes currently on the Nashville market have already had their asking prices reduced. Number 8. Las Vegas, Nevada. You've probably heard the famous phrase, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." Unfortunately, that saying may now apply to something far less glamorous: serious job losses and an increasingly unstable housing market. If this situation sounds familiar, it should. We watched a very similar story unfold during the 2008 financial crisis, when Las Vegas was one of the hardest hit cities in the country. And this time around, the situation may be shaping up to be even more severe. The reason comes down to the structure of the local economy. Las Vegas runs largely on discretionary spending. The city depends heavily on conventions, tourism, and casino gaming. When businesses tighten their budgets or when American households start cutting back, Las Vegas is often one of the first luxuries people eliminate. And right now, the data surrounding the job market is raising serious concerns. The convention industry, which provides many well-paid union positions, has started pulling back dramatically. Several large technology and medical conventions have either scaled down their events or canceled them altogether, pointing to economic uncertainty as the reason. According to reports from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, attendance numbers have dropped noticeably. That decline translates into millions of dollars in lost revenue for the city. Naturally, the impact spreads quickly to the service sector. Figures from the Nevada Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation show that while hospitality jobs technically still exist, many workers are seeing their hours reduced significantly. In many cases, employers are quietly converting full-time roles into part-time schedules. For workers, that can mean household income getting cut almost in half. Because of that, financial stress among homeowners is beginning to show. The Mortgage Bankers Association recently identified the Las Vegas metropolitan area as a higher risk region, pointing to a growing number of mortgage payments that are more than 30 days overdue. But the most serious issue may be developing on the housing supply side. During the pandemic housing surge, investors flooded into Las Vegas and bought large numbers of single-family homes to turn into rental properties. Now, as incomes decline and tenants struggle financially, many of those renters are falling behind on payments. Data from the Zillow Observed Rent Index shows that rental prices in Las Vegas have experienced one of the sharpest declines anywhere in the United States. For property investors, that drop in rent means monthly losses, and many are deciding they'd rather sell than keep absorbing those losses. Redfin reports that the number of investor-owned homes listed for sale has jumped by more than 50%, rapidly increasing the supply of properties on the market. The problem is simple. A market flooded with homes is colliding with a local workforce that is increasingly worried about job stability. When people are losing hours or entire jobs, they simply can't afford to buy. If you're thinking about betting your financial future on the Las Vegas housing market, you might want to think twice. Number 7. Sacramento, California. For a long time, Sacramento represented the perfect escape hatch from the expensive chaos of the Bay Area. People would pack up, drive east, and suddenly they could afford a home, land a reliable government position, and enjoy a slower, quieter lifestyle. During the pandemic years, that trend accelerated dramatically. Tech workers arriving with big salaries and cash from the Bay Area began snapping up homes across entire neighborhoods, sending local housing prices soaring to levels many longtime residents had never imagined. But the very connection that fueled Sacramento's growth, the steady flow of people and money from the Bay Area, is now becoming a serious liability. The first major blow comes from the tech sector. As companies in San Francisco and Silicon Valley continue announcing layoffs and enforcing strict return-to-office policies, the migration pipeline that once fed Sacramento has slowed to a crawl. In fact, it's starting to move in reverse. A report from the Bay Area Council Economic Institute shows that the once steady migration from the Bay Area into Sacramento has dropped dramatically. That sudden shift is hitting the region's higher-paying job market almost immediately. Several technology companies that previously opened satellite offices in Sacramento are now pulling operations back toward the coast. As those offices close or shrink, white-collar layoffs are beginning to follow. But the second hit to Sacramento's economy is the one few people anticipated. Even government employment, the sector that has traditionally been the city's most stable economic foundation, is starting to feel pressure. The California Legislative Analyst's Office has warned that the state is facing a multi-billion-dollar budget deficit. In response, state leaders have begun implementing widespread hiring freezes. That's a huge problem for Sacramento, where government employment has historically served as the backbone of the local economy. Now, the city's two most important job engines, technology and state government, are weakening at the same time. Not surprisingly, the housing market is reacting quickly. The Sacramento Association of Realtors recently reported that home sales have fallen to the lowest level seen in more than 10 years. Meanwhile, the number of homes available for sale continues to climb. Data from Redfin shows that the typical time a home spends on the market has doubled compared to recent years. Instead of selling quickly, properties are lingering for weeks or even months. As listings sit unsold, many homeowners are resorting to repeated price cuts in hopes to attract buyers. Zillow's housing data reveals that property values in several of Sacramento's most sought-after zip codes have already dropped noticeably from their peak levels. Sacramento once thrived as the spillover market for Bay Area wealth, but now that spillover effect has dried up, and what remains is the economic fallout. Number 6. Miami, Florida. Next, we head down south to Miami, a city that has recently become synonymous with sunshine, finance, and the explosive rise of crypto culture. When you arrive, the atmosphere feels charged with wealth and ambition. Luxury cars cruise the streets, sleek glass skyscrapers dominate the skyline, and advertisements for crypto conferences seem to be everywhere. At first glance, Miami appears unstoppable. But much of this rapid growth wasn't built on long-term economic fundamentals. Instead, it was fueled heavily by speculation, and now that speculative money is beginning to disappear. The wave of finance 2.0 startups and crypto companies that once rushed to establish offices in Miami is now starting to recede. Many of the venture capital firms that poured money into these businesses have dramatically reduced their spending. According to data from PitchBook, venture funding tied to this ecosystem has dropped by more than 60%. That pullback has triggered a quiet but significant wave of layoffs across the local tech and finance scene. Job tracking platforms like Layoffs.fyi show a steady flow of cuts from Miami-based startups that simply ran out of cash after the investment money dried up. At the same time, another important source of demand is fading away: international wealth. For years, affluent buyers from South America and Europe treated Miami real estate, especially luxury condos, as a place to park their money. But shifting economic conditions, including a strong US dollar and growing global uncertainty, are now pushing those buyers to step back. The Miami Association of Realtors has already reported a major drop in transactions involving foreign purchasers. When you combine shrinking venture funding with disappearing international demand, the impact on the housing market becomes serious. But Miami faces an additional challenge that may be even more damaging. The city's affordability problem has rapidly evolved into something else entirely: an insurance crisis. Because of increasing climate-related risks, homeowners' insurance premiums in South Florida have surged dramatically. Local news reports indicate that some homeowners are now paying 3 or even 4 times what they were paying just a few years ago. That massive spike adds thousands of dollars to the cost of owning a home each year. Many residents are responding in the only way they can: they're putting their properties on the market. The issue is that fewer buyers can actually afford to step in. Data from the Zillow Home Value Index suggests that after years of explosive growth, Miami's housing market has started to stall, with prices beginning to decline month after month. Redfin's market reports show another worrying trend: a growing surplus of luxury condominiums. In fact, inventory in that segment alone has surged by more than 35%. Those are the same high-end condos that many crypto entrepreneurs and finance professionals rushed to buy during the boom, and now a large number of those owners appear eager to sell. Number 5. Denver, Colorado. Our journey now climbs a mile above sea level to Denver. When you arrive, it's easy to remember why this city once represented the promise of the modern American West: an energetic mix of technology, energy companies, outdoor culture, and rapid economic growth. But the reality today looks far less stable. The region, once nicknamed Silicon Mountain, is now struggling under the pressure of a deep tech sector downturn, combined with a cost of living crisis that many residents simply can't keep up with anymore. The tech industry throughout the Denver-Boulder corridor has been hit especially hard. Large employers across the region have gone through repeated waves of layoffs, trimming their workforces again and again. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms that Denver's information sector, along with its professional and business services industries, have begun losing jobs, something the city hadn't experienced in roughly 15 years. And this isn't limited to small startups collapsing. Even well-established public companies have begun cutting thousands of employees, sending shockwaves through the local economy. That wave of job losses has triggered a serious chain reaction in Denver's commercial real estate market. A recent report released by the Downtown Denver Partnership revealed a startling figure. Office vacancy rates in the city center have climbed past 30%, the highest level ever recorded. Entire office floors now sit empty because the companies that once filled them either downsized or disappeared. At the same time, this employment collapse is colliding with one of the most overheated housing markets in the United States. For years, Denver home prices kept rising thanks to a combination of historically low interest rates and high-paying technology salaries. But now, that equation has flipped. Many of those high salaries are gone, and borrowing money to buy a home has become far more expensive. The result is a housing market that has essentially stalled. According to the Denver Metro Association of Realtors, the number of homes actually being sold has dropped dramatically. Meanwhile, unsold listings are piling up. Redfin reports that the inventory of homes on the market has surged more than 50% compared with last year alone, and sellers are being forced to make steep price reductions in order to attract buyers. Data from Zillow shows that property values across the Denver metropolitan area have already reversed sharply from their peak, making it one of the fastest cooling markets in the country. For many homeowners, the situation feels like a trap. Selling now could mean accepting a significant financial loss, but staying in the home may no longer be affordable after losing a well-paying job. Number 4. Boise, Idaho. Brace yourself. This stop is eye-opening. We've arrived in Boise, Idaho, widely considered the ultimate poster child of the pandemic-era Zoom boom. This quiet, previously affordable city suddenly became the top destination for remote workers escaping high-cost coastal states. Housing prices skyrocketed, nearly doubling in just a few short years. It felt like a gold rush, and many believed the boom would never end. But now, the gold rush is over, and the hangover is hitting hard. Boise's economy was never built to handle this kind of growth. Unlike major metropolitan areas, it lacks large corporate anchors. Its boom relied almost entirely on two things: remote work and construction. And today, both of those pillars are collapsing. First, the shift back to in-office mandates from tech and finance companies is forcing remote workers to make a tough choice: relocate back to the office or lose their job. Many are now facing unemployment. Those high six-figure salaries that once supported sprawling Boise homes, they're disappearing fast. Second, the construction industry, responsible for building homes to accommodate all the new residents, is running into serious trouble. Data from the Intermountain Multiple Listing Service shows a surplus of newly built homes sitting empty, with builders offering huge incentives just to attract buyers, often with little success. The Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms that construction job growth in the region has gone negative, exposing a fatal flaw in Boise's economy. Local wages were never enough to support the inflated housing market. A report from the Idaho Department of Labor highlights the severity of the problem. The median home price in Boise now requires nearly twice the income of the city's median household wage. Simply put, affordability has collapsed. Redfin data shows that the market is in full-blown panic. Boise has one of the highest rates of seller price reductions in the country. Over 1 in 3 homes listed has already had its price cut. Even more alarming, Zillow reports that a significant portion of buyers who purchased homes in the past 2 years are now underwater, owing more on their mortgages than their homes are currently worth. Number 3. Seattle, Washington. Next, we arrive in the heart of the tech world, Seattle, home to giants like Amazon and Microsoft, along with a vast constellation of high-profile tech firms. For the better part of 2 decades, this city was essentially a money-making machine. Sky-high salaries from tech jobs drove an unstoppable housing boom, and everything seemed to rise in tandem: home values, rents, and local spending. But that machine is now broken. Seattle isn't just experiencing a market correction. The tech recession here represents a deep structural shift. The scale of layoffs is staggering. Amazon alone has let go of thousands of employees, while Microsoft has cut thousands more. Hundreds of other tech companies have followed the same path. According to Layoffs.fyi, the Seattle metro area is one of the hardest hit regions in the world. And these aren't just entry-level positions. Many of the affected employees were earning 6-figure and even 7-figure salaries, with stock options and bonuses that once powered the local economy. The ripple effects have been devastating. The Puget Sound Business Journal reports that hundreds of small businesses in neighborhoods like South Lake Union, cafes, restaurants, and shops that relied entirely on the tech workforce have shut their doors for good. And the housing market, which was once the nation's hottest, has now entered free fall. Zillow's Home Value Index shows that Seattle home prices have dropped significantly from their peaks, erasing hundreds of thousands of dollars in homeowner equity. The luxury segment is suffering even more. Data from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service indicates that sales of homes priced above $2 million have fallen by more than 40%, while the inventory of unsold properties, particularly condos built for tech workers, has skyrocketed. Redfin reports that the median days on market have tripled, signaling a market where homes simply aren't selling. Meanwhile, the city itself is facing a looming budget crisis as lost business revenue and declining property taxes squeeze municipal finances. Number 2. Austin, Texas.
This one stings. We're heading into Austin, the city famous for Keep Austin Weird, live music, and the meteoric rise to the next Silicon Valley. For years, everyone seemed to be moving there. Tech giants like Tesla, Oracle, Apple, and Google all established massive campuses, driving local demand through the roof. Housing prices soared, and investors snapped up entire streets of homes, convinced the boom would never end. But the truth is, it was a bubble, and that bubble has now burst spectacularly. Austin's economy became dangerously dependent on a single sector, technology. At the same time, the city saw developers build far too many homes based on a boom that wasn't sustainable. Now, the tech job market is in free fall. The Austin Chamber of Commerce, once proud of the city's job growth, reports that the tech sector is shedding positions for the first time in over 2 decades. Bureau of Labor Statistics data confirms that Austin's information sector has suffered one of the sharpest employment reversals of any U.S. metro area. Those high-paying jobs that flowed in from California, the very positions that fueled Austin's rapid expansion, are now driving the collapse. This wave of layoffs has collided with a tsunami of housing supply. Developers, blinded by the boom, built tens of thousands of new homes and apartment complexes, expecting demand to continue indefinitely. The Austin Board of Realtors now reports a staggering increase. Housing inventory has grown by more than 150% year over year. There are more homes for sale than at any point in the past decade. It's a classic buyer market. But most of the potential buyers have just lost the high-paying tech jobs that would have made these purchases possible. As a result, Zillow shows that Austin home values are dropping fast, posting some of the deepest and most rapid declines in the nation. The Texas A&M Real Estate Center confirms that home sales are collapsing, while desperate sellers slash prices in hopes of attracting buyers. Redfin data highlights that Austin currently leads the country in home price reductions. Local reports indicate that even construction projects are being abandoned mid-build as the capital that fueled the boom dries up and the workforce shrinks. Once the darling of the tech migration, Austin is now facing a brutal reckoning. Its famed slogan might still be fun to say, but it no longer applies to the economy. Jobs are vanishing, and the housing market is being crushed under the weight of the collapse. Number 1. San Francisco, California. We've reached the final stop, ground zero of the American tech boom and its unraveling. Step into downtown San Francisco, and the scene is eerie. It feels almost deserted. This city was once the undisputed epicenter of global technology, producing more millionaires in a decade than perhaps any other place in history. Its median home prices were the stuff of legend, astronomical, even insane. Today, San Francisco tops our list as the #1 city where a collapsing job market is triggering a full-blown housing crisis. The city's problems are threefold: a tech industry meltdown, a commercial real estate catastrophe, and the disruptive rise of artificial intelligence. First, the tech layoffs that started in Seattle and Austin are hitting San Francisco hardest. This is the headquarters of the companies that drove the global tech economy. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows the Bay Area has lost tens of thousands of high-paying tech positions, jobs that once supported the city's stratospheric housing market. Second, the return-to-office revolution, or the lack thereof, has decimated the downtown core. A recent CBRE report puts San Francisco's office vacancy rate at a staggering 36%. Entire businesses have disappeared, the city's tax base is shrinking, and municipal finances are caught in a downward spiral. The third and perhaps most alarming factor is artificial intelligence. San Francisco is the heart of the AI revolution, but it's a revolution that's destroying jobs. The very companies headquartered here are developing technologies that threaten millions of white-collar roles: coders, designers, writers, paralegals, all the professionals who once sustained the city's sky-high home prices. The housing market is reflecting this devastation. Downtown condos have collapsed in value. Zillow data shows prices in key zip codes have fallen by hundreds of thousands of dollars from their peaks. Redfin reports that sellers are taking losses of 20, 30, even 40%. Even more startling is the population shift. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the exodus is continuing unabated. High-income earners are leaving, and they're not being replaced. The $2 million two-bedroom homes that once symbolized the city's wealth are now supported by nothing. This is the blueprint of a housing crash that will be studied for decades. A market built on sky-high salaries, massive tech employment, and speculation now collapsing as the foundation disappears. Our road trip ends here, and the picture couldn't be clearer. These 10 cities, once celebrated as symbols of American opportunity and growth, are now sending flashing red warning signals. The takeaway is bigger than these cities alone. It's a stark lesson about the dangers of chasing hype while ignoring fundamentals. A home's value is only as strong as the local job market that supports it. When high-paying, stable jobs vanish, the wealth tied to housing disappears with them. If this journey gave you insight into what's really happening, hit the like button, share this with a friend or family member who needs to see it, and subscribe for more clear-eyed truths about the economy. Drop a comment below. Tell me which city shocked you the most and where you think we should investigate next.